Well, we're thrilled because Rakhi McCormick joins us via Skype from Detroit area where she designs some great things and serves in parish ministry to families. Rakhi, thanks so much for being with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Jay. Thank you for having me.
Now, I'm really excited to talk to you because we talked a little before the show. This is going to be
Yes.
this is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting for me. So you originally practiced Hinduism and came into the church during a time when many young adults, because I think you were maybe a junior, kind of drift away. Tell us about that.
Sure. My parents moved here from Calcutta back in the 70s, and I grew up Hindu, but they were very, because they were living in America, they wanted to be American. And so we culturally celebrated some of the holidays like Christmas, Easter, all of that. But growing up Hindu, I grew up in Iowa, in a small town in Iowa. It was kind of a lonely experience. I didn't really fit in. And so I grew up with this whole longing to belong somewhere, which once I got to college kind of led to some destructive behaviors, as we see across the board from a lot of our young people. And long story short, I ended up searching for kind of where I was supposed to be. Where did I belong? Why was I here? I knew I was loved. I knew I was wanted, but I still didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. And a friend of mine invited me to Mass with her. And when I encountered Jesus in the Eucharist, although at that time I had no idea what that was or who that was, I just knew I was home. And so I entered RCIA at that point, and this was in 96, so it's still morning here in Detroit. I can't do math. It was, and so I came into the church in Easter Vigil of 1996, and I'd like to say that, it was a straight shot from there, but as we know, life throws curves, and, it's kind of been an ebb and a flow, but God has consistently pursued my heart as he does all of us. And so here I am now, some 20-some years later, working in the church that I joined just not knowing what I was getting myself into at all.
That's great. I know many people think we shouldn't invest resources in college campus ministry, but you're a shining example of its importance. Tell us how you first served in campus ministry, how you work with young families as well.
Sure. And, campus ministry has been a really big part of my life, not just coming into the church, but because that's where I encountered Jesus in such a profound way. It's where I ended up volunteering. My master's degree is in educational administration, working in higher education. And so that's why I moved to Detroit, was to work at Oakland University. And the Catholic campus minister was on my search committee. And we ended up becoming friends, and I ended up volunteering with that program. And it just was such a joy. And honestly, while I came into the church to belong back in 96, I think I finally really gave my heart to Jesus, volunteering and all of that. I think it is a turbulent time. I think it is a time when so many of our young people are really seeking answers to those questions. Who am I? Why was I made? What is my purpose? And having people who are on fire for the Lord, who can look at those young people and call out in them their belovedness, to call out in them the purpose that God has given them, and to help them to encounter Christ in their own profound way, and to set them on that journey is just so vital. It's so critical, even if it's one person. I think sometimes we get caught in the trap of thinking it needs to be multitudes of people, but, Jesus encountered everybody one by one, and that's our call as well.
So what are some of your, so I have three kids. I have a 21-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 15-year-old. What are some of the things you do with families to encourage them to pray and to also develop their faith more deeply?
I think it is just offering opportunities for them to come together wherever they are in their faith. I think sometimes there's this presumption that they need to have a certain level of piety to be able to come to ministry events. And especially with our young families, I think most of us, and it comes out of my husband's and my own experience, we feel so isolated from one another, and we feel like we're struggling through this journey by ourselves. And we know that's a lie from the evil one. We're not alone at all. And so really finding opportunities for them to be introduced to different methods of prayer. I think we spend a lot of time learning about the faith, but maybe not developing those habits of prayer and encounter. So, we have opportunities for them to pray the rosary together, or opportunities for Bible study, or opportunities just to come together and enjoy each other's company. but to base that around prayer and around encounter.
You know, Catholic TV, of course, airs in Detroit. We've had an amazing response from people who are unable to spend time at their parishes due to COVID. How's the outreach at your parish been impacted by this whole pandemic?
Well, for one, my husband and I very much enjoyed watching your daily mass on Catholic TV. That was one of our routines when we were at home. And honestly, part of my new responsibility at the parish with mission and outreach is digital ministry. And I'm so thankful for the way that our pastor and our staff responded, immediately pivoting and figuring out how to make it all work, and live streaming our masses and offering opportunities for people to encounter not just Christ, but one another online. So whether that's having live rosaries, or whether that is having some video helping them to be encouraged and really to remain rooted in the hope of Christ, even amid the chaos of the pandemic, even amid loss. You know, I lost my mother during the pandemic. And
sorry.
There's a lot of grief thank you. There's a lot of grief that people have in being able to be that voice of hope and that voice of consolation and the voice of peace, especially, you know, you were talking about the debates earlier with everything going on. Being creative in how we are helping people to stay connected to Christ during this time.
Now let's talk, we're running out of time, unfortunately. That always happens. Tell me about your design work. I know you do some pins. You have a Blessed Solanus Casey. I'm having trouble now.
Yeah, that's okay.
From Detroit, actually from Detroit. So tell us about that.
Yes. Sure. So when I had my my children at first, you know, it was an isolating experience as a young mom with young children. I couldn't go out and do ministry things as much as I used to. And so I just kind of started hand lettering, and I started designing at home, and that led to a ministry in and of itself. So, you know, I design things that are inspired by my faith, inspired by my own journey, inspired by saints who inspire me, like Blessed Solanus Casey. Mother Teresa is a big influence in my life. And it's just an opportunity to give people a creative way to encounter their faith, to be encouraged, to find hope, and to really remember how much God loves them, and just to remember who they are in the eyes of the Lord.
Well, along with being a wife, a mom, you're doing many virtual conferences and sessions. How can viewers stay in touch with your work and the events that you're doing?
For me, my primary online haunt is Instagram, and you can find me on there at Rockstar Designs. It's RAKSTAR Designs. And I usually share everything through there, whether it is the virtual conference I'm doing with Catholic moms and my podcast, all the design work. That's where I like to hang out. Pretty things.
Rockstar Designs. That's awesome, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, Rakhi, thanks so much for being with us. We love Detroit, so it's good to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a great day now.
You too.